Hi everyone, welcome back to a new episode of Little Shop of Nerds. I'm Julia.
Mike, what's up?
And last week's hint was I hate it when you make me laugh.
Yes, today we're going to talk about the 1999 movie 10 Things I Hate About You. This is another continuing of our Shakespeare series.
Yes, so this was actually based off of the Shakespeare play Taming of the Shrew. And this is kind of nostalgic because I really enjoyed this. It had Heath Ledger in it. And it had Julia Stiles, which any of you 90s people out there know, Julia Stiles was very popular in the late 90s and the early 2000s with teen romantic comedies. So she was in this movie, and she played Kat Stratford, who was she's a little rough around the edges. And she has a sister named Bianca.
Acts more like a Southern Cali girl, though it looks like it takes place in Washington.
No, I think it took place in California.
Well, either way, this was the year when the Southern Valley girl was dying.
Yeah. So, this does look like it took place in California. Her father is I think a OBGYN because he's so worried that his daughters are going to get pregnant. Like, her dad, I love her. I absolutely adore her dad because he was hilarious. So,
And, yeah.
So they had, for all you 90s kids out there, Joseph Gordon-Levitt was in this. And he played Cameron, who I think technically he was supposed to be the main character. Because, I mean, it focused more on, like, Bianca and Kat's life than it did his life. But he's the one that set all of the things in motion, like all the events in motion. Because he was a new kid. The teacher was writing erotica in her office when we first meet her.
Guidance counselor.
What did I say?
Teacher.
Guidance counselor, teacher, same thing basically.
No, guidance counselor is like, I want to do more in my life, but I have to tell this dumbass you're not going to get into the college of your choice because you're a dumbass. But in a nice way. Fuck you.
Yeah. Anyways, so, she was writing erotica in her office. Mm-hmm. And then we meet Heath Ledger. Yeah, I also like to write that. Then we meet Heath Ledger.
Which you might know from as the Joker from The Dark Knight. All Batman fans out there.
He apparently exposed himself in the lunchroom to the lunch lady.
But it was a bratwurst.
But he said it was a bratwurst. And the teacher who was writing erotica, she had, like, something about, like, his pulsating member or whatever, and then she changed it to bratwurst, and I'm like, are you for real?
You gotta take what's given.
So, he meets, here's Noelle. She's being very, annoying today.
Bye, Noelle.
So, then he meets a guy named William, who's supposed to be showing him around the school. Cameron does. And you might know him as the guy that played Bernard in The Santa Claus.
Yep, and he pretty much plays the guy who is... He hangs with a group that are like the future Donald Trumps of America. By that, trying to be...
They were the AV Club. I thought is what he said, or the video club or something like that.
I think he was part of that, but remember when he's telling Cameron the cliques, the white, the guys who like Bob Marley, but they just want to smoke weed and pretend they're black, and you got the cowboys who never really aren't cowboys; they're just city folk, and you got your populars, your jocks, your geeks, and they had these ones that were like, kind of like dressed like stockbrokers, trying to be like the big corporate guys of America, of the future. He hanged with them till someone made a rumor of some kind of bullshit, and that's why he was outcast. Yeah, so, and I have to say, pretty much, they got the looks down pretty much.
Yeah. So, then Cameron sees Bianca, and then he learns that Bianca can't date because Kat's not dating.
Well,
first it was she couldn't graduate until she graduated high school.
Yeah. Okay, I don't know how I can say this. I don't have kids, I don't care, but I get the dad being worried, being a doctor, because you know what comes in and out, mostly teen girls. But anyways, I get that, but in my opinion, kids are going to do what they want. So
now I am going to warn you that this movie did. I mean, it kind of didn't age well.
Not at all.
I mean, this movie did come out in 1999 when things weren't as crazy as they are now. So the movie didn't age as well as it probably should have.
No.
But anyways, so he meets Bianca. He learns that she can't date. And then
you see Kat in a classroom being herself. Someone's liking him in a way, but
yeah, she's actually a big feminist in this movie.
Yep. And
but there's a reason for that.
Yeah, there is a reason. We'll get to that later. But then you got the teacher. He's been in other movies. I forget who he is. He is African American, and he pretty much he's like, "Wow, Kat, I'm really surprised. Since a white suburban girl can't get this, why can't they buy a?" And I'm like, "Wow, that turned from the worst."
Yeah.
I'm like, wait, I remember. I think teachers used to be like this back then until they had like a backbone. Until, all you Karens out there saying my son won't do this. Yeah, he is, and he's dumb as a bag of nails like you. So where does it lie?
Yeah. So, anyway, she argues with the teacher. She gets sent to the guidance counselor. Come to find out that she had been in the guidance counselor earlier because she kicked somebody or she kneed somebody in the nuts, and they had to do what they called a testicle extraction.
I'm wondering what she used.
Yeah, and I didn't even know that something like that could happen. But she was like, just to let you know, the testicle extraction went fine, in case you were concerned. And she's like, I still stand by the fact that he kicked himself.
Same.
So,
hey, if some guy say something stupid, he deserves it.
Yeah. So she goes home, I think, after that.
Yeah.
And her father shows up, and her sister, I think, got asked out by the most popular, richest guy in school, Joey.
Yeah, and he's pretty much the typical douchebag, also trying to be an actor, model, and I think he is one, but
he is at least a model.
And you pretty much know, you get the point, He looks like a douche, dressed like a douche. There's a reason why Kat hates him really much, but we'll get to that later. Mm-hmm. Like I said, Kat's at home. Her dad gives her a letter to a college that she wants to go in the East Coast. The dad doesn't like it, but...
Yeah, because he doesn't like the fact that she's going so far away.
But here's the reason why, because their mom, I think, left them.
Yeah.
And he's pretty much wants them there because they are his last moment of family, It's like, I get it, but still you gotta let him fly.
Yeah. So, yeah, she wanted to go to, I think it was Mary Lawrence College on the East Coast. Yep. This is why I'm saying that they have to live in California, because if she's going across the country, she lives somewhere on the West Coast, and judging by how everything looks, it looks like Los Angeles, at least.
Could be, but,
maybe San Francisco.
Could be at least, but, then her dad changes the rule because, the little sister made an argument.
Yeah, because the little sister came home, and I think she asked if she could date or something. And then Kat was like, well, guess who brought Bianca home? And she's like, Joey. And their dad freaks out. And then he changes the rule. He's like, okay, Bianca can date when she does. And he points at Kat. And Bianca's like, that is such an unfair rule because no one's ever going to want to date Kat and blah, 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 blah. Just throwing in like a spoiled girl fit.
Yes, and she goes to Cameron, who's tutoring her in French, and then they get the idea. Hey, what the dude who plays Bernard?
William.
William goes to William. Then they hatch a plan to do it. They got a bunch of guys to do like an interview to go out with Kat, and they're like,
none of them wanted to go out with Kat.
Even the fat guy screamed.
Yeah. So everybody's pretty much like afraid of Kat because they know how she is. And they do manage to then they saw Heath Ledger's character, which I cannot remember his name. And they're like, well, what about him? And then he's like, well, maybe if we pay him. And so then they end up having to go to Joey. And while Joey's sitting here making this proposition, William is sitting there with Joey making the proposition. Joey draws a penis on his face.
Yeah, and you know what's funny? This movie was PG-13. Like, if it was made today, if someone's drawing a dick, that would have been like a rated R movie. But this is PG-13, and I'm like, well, at least he didn't draw the splooge marks around there.
Yeah, like he drew it on his cheek, and then, like no one seemed to really care that he had a dick on his face. And then he told Cameron that he was thinking about it, and then he said, "There's a dick on my face, isn't there?"
Yep.
And then it went to the next scene.
Yeah, and they pretty much did the whole spiel. Joey makes the deal with Heath Ledger's character. He makes the deal that he's trying and not going so well because, But that's when Cameron gets with Bianca and they go get more information on Kat and...
Yeah, because I do believe Joey was paying Heath Ledger's character $50 to take out Kat. And she just wasn't reciprocating because she wasn't really interested. And, so they did have to get information on her to make it a little bit easier because then I think Joey started paying more money to Heath Ledger's character. Because he wanted results and he wasn't getting results. And he's like, I paid you $50, so why aren't there no results? So they get all this information. They give it to Heath Ledger.
He pretty much, there was a couple funny moments when they give the information, right? They say no smoking because he's a smoker. One of them was she likes pretty guys. I'm like, I'm not pretty. I'm like,
yeah. Heath Ledger is actually quite pretty, I think. And then the other one was she liked angry feminist music.
And he has to go to a club that he's like, I'm not going there.
Yeah, it was called Team Skunk or Club Skunk. And if you go in there, it was I saw like maybe one or two men, but it was mostly all women at this club when he goes because Kat's favorite band was playing and she had tickets.
Well, think about this. Feminism started with Susan B. Anthony, then the 60s and 70s, and it got more bigger, angrier during the 90s if you look at it.
That's true, yeah.
But anyways, besides all that, they talk and they're like, hey, you want to go to this party? And she's like, no. Is that yes? He's like, no. So that's a no?
Yeah. And because, I feel like maybe at that point when he kind of just starts, saying, oh, I quit smoking and, I like this and this, you can kind of see her resistance wearing down a little bit.
Yep. And
she seemed to be more open. And he was like, hey, I'll pick you up at 9:30. Well, Bianca and her friend tried to sneak out to go to this party, which the girl, that is her friend Gabrielle Union, she was in Bring It On. She was one of hopefully I don't get demonetized for this, but her name was Isis. And and Bring It On. That was her name. So YouTube, don't demonetize us because of that, because that's her name.
Well, there is also a DC character named that too.
Yeah.
But we're not going to get into that, and let's get away from the late.
Yeah, I'm just saying that was her name, and Bring It On was Isis. So
yeah, we know that before we. Yeah, I know there's a lot of history with that name, but now it's not. Let's just get back on track.
So, Bianca's trying to sneak out with her friend. Her dad is like, you should have used the window. And he's like, where are you going? And she's like, oh, just a study group. And he was just like, he wasn't buying it. And she's like, okay, there's this little party. And he's like, no party. And because he's like, if you go to a party, they're going to be drinking, and that's going to lead to kissing, and then that's going to lead to you getting pregnant, basically, is what he basically said.
Well,
and
that is an ingredient for a baby maker.
Yeah. So, remember, guys, don't do it when you're drunk. Consent is key. So, she managed to convince Kat to go.
Yes.
Because she would only be allowed to go if Kat went. And then her dad made her wear the belly, which is basically a pregnant belly. And she's like, I can't wear this out. And he goes, no, you only have to wear it for a minute. And inside the living room, he goes, this is what it feels like to be able to, this is what it feels like to carry a child.
I'm surprised public schools ain't doing that now.
You would think, yeah. So, like I said, her dad's an OBGYN, so he sees stuff like this all the time.
But yes, they do the thing. Heath Ledger character's there. Pretty much, this party is at the richest person's, like, if you have that one rich person like the family's got a big house, everything to get down and dirty with, that's pretty much the party house.
Yeah, because, like, they were sitting, like, the group was sitting there, and they were getting ready to smoke cigars, it looked like. It looked like a business meeting, and then all the kids came in and just started partying.
Yes, and they did. What was it? I know the kid who lives in that house. What was it? Trying to keep everything calm and not breakable because everything was fallible. And the guys who played the Cowboys were spitting in a crystal ball. I'm like, and he's like, okay, one, I understand you're going to have to clean that up. And two, I know guys who do chew, they at least have a can to spit in.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it is a movie, and they were sensationalizing everything.
But either way, right? Kat is pretty much hammered throughout the whole film.
Well, that scene.
Yeah, that scene.
The party scene.
And Heath Ledger's character is trying to stop her. Bianca is with Joey, and Cameron's trying to get with Bianca, and Joey's just pretty much, how can I say, he's really more about himself, like only cares about himself, talks about himself. Oh, what am I going to do with the modern career? Pretty much I'm a narcissist, douchebag, and I'm like, dude, shut the fuck up.
Yeah, and that's when Cameron realized that Bianca wasn't interested in him, that she was interested in Joey. And he was like, basically they were paying Heath Ledger's character for Joey to try to get with Bianca and not him get with Bianca.
Yep.
So they go out. Something happened, and she got a concussion.
And pretty much Heath Ledger's character pretty much helped. He didn't do anything wrong. He's just talking to her and making sure she doesn't fall asleep. And
she throws up on his shoes, it looks like.
Yeah, and the next day,
he takes her home. Don't forget about that. So, at the end of the party, there's an after party. And Joey asked Bianca, hey, are you going to the after party? And she was like, no, I gotta be home in 20 minutes. And then he's like, okay, whatever. And he goes with her best friend, Chastity. And she was like, bitch. And Cameron walks by her without saying anything. She's like, Cameron. And he's like, and he stops. And she's like, can you give me a ride home? And then he takes her home. Well, Heath Ledger's character also takes Kat home, and they're talking, having a good time, and she leans in to kiss him, but he wouldn't kiss her. She takes that as, because at that point, she was starting to feel something for him, I think.
Yeah, but here's the thing. I
get it that she was drunk.
But
and he was being paid to date her. And because I think at that point, too, he was also starting to catch feelings for her. But he probably felt like it was under false pretenses, basically, because he was being paid to woo her, basically.
Yeah, pretty much. And truth be told, I would be him, too. I don't, like, if I'm sober and if a woman's drunk, I don't want to kiss her.
Like, if I were him, I would have been like, hey, you're drunk. Let's take a step. Let's take a step back, and
breathe. Get you some coffee in you and some water or something.
Then we'll talk or something like that, But and she took it as rejection, and she stormed out of the car.
And
and you could tell that he was pretty upset.
And the next day, in a couple days, she's still pissed at him, and Cameron's still pissed because Bianca doesn't like him, and Heath Ledger's character is like, "Hey, you care about her, right?" And I'm like, "Yeah." It's like, "Keep at it," something like that. But in my opinion, I'm like,
well, no, because Bianca did kiss him when he dropped her off.
Right.
Because, he sat there and he talked about how, I learned French for you. I did this, and, and you liked him all along, and then she kissed him. And right there, that should have been, an indicator that she was interested in him. Because I think she kind of got a little disillusioned when Joey went off with her best friend.
Well, yes. And, Heath Ledger's trying to win Kat back, and Joey's still paying her some bullshit,
Yeah, and then the prom was coming up. And because there was a scene where she was at the
music store.
The music store, she was playing a guitar because he said that maybe she should start a band. And so she had a guitar. She was playing it. She had headphones on, and she didn't hear him behind her. He was just standing there, just looking at her.
Yeah, and he pretty much turns away. Then she's at the bookstore. He's there, asking for the copy of the Feminine Mystique. If you don't know what that is, that's a book about feminists, y'all. You need to go look it up. Anyways, she's still mad at him. So what does every movie or every romance movie ever taught us when a guy gets in trouble? Makes it up by singing a song, embarrassing the shit out of himself.
Yeah, because he basically embarrassed her when he wouldn't kiss her back.
And and there goes Noel again.
Yeah.
And he sings awfully key of Can't Take My Eyes Off You by Frankie Valli and the Four Seasons.
Yeah, so he basically and then he gets put in detention. So, and it looked like a lot of other people who took part in this was also on vacation in detention, because this is the thing, Joey had given him another $300 to take her to the prom. And that was supposed to cover the tux, the limo, and something else. And
you could tell he was hesitant not to do.
Yeah, because originally Joey was going to give him $200.
Yeah.
And he's like, I can't do this. And then he goes, okay, well, $300. And he gives him an extra $300, and he takes it. So then it looks like he ended up giving that money to probably the band, not the band director, but the student band director, the field commander for the marching band. And he, then that's how he was able to do the song. And he was in detention. Kat comes in. Her soccer coach was the detention teacher.
You know what's funny? He goes around, the students intimidate him. One of them had a bag of weed, and he's like, "This is going to be confiscated." Yeah, confiscated.
Yeah. And then he took somebody's bag of Cheetos too. He's like, I'm gonna need these later.
I'm like, yeah, we know what he's gonna do with them.
Yeah. So they she comes in, Kat comes in and starts to distract him. And to get Heath Ledger's character out of detention. Yeah. And then she ended up flashing her teacher to get him out.
Once you see this part where Heath is trying to escape by hiding behind stuff, if all of you ever play Arkham Knight, we know how where that one of the Joker victims clones, when you're trying to dodge him and you're trying to defuse the bombs, it's pretty much like that.
Yeah, so now Kat's character is 18 in the movie. So her flashing the teacher isn't necessarily bad because she is 18. So just y'all just keep that in mind. She is an adult.
Okay, let's keep moving on before more shit drops on our toes.
Yeah. Here. So they are going out and they're like in a paddle boat and they're just kind of talking and stuff like that.
Yes, and talking how the stuff is. And what else happens on a date? You go paintballing.
Yeah, and then they make out.
And also, their paintballing was just balloons. I did paintballing as a kid. I think this was before paintball guns. I don't know when paintball guns came out. I played it. Hurt as hell.
Yeah. So these were just paint-filled balloons that they were using. And then they had their first kiss.
Yes.
Because she's sober and he's sober and all that.
Yeah.
Well, they go back to her house and she's asking him all these questions and he actually they get into an argument about it was because he asked her to go to prom with him. And she said no, and he was like, well, why not? And she said that she just didn't want to or something like that. And they get into a fight. He starts to smoke again. And so then they get into another fight, and you know.
Yeah, pretty much. And everyone, Kat, they're just everyone's in the mood. Bianca's in the mood too with Cameron. And
oh yeah, well no, because remember Joey had asked Bianca to the prom.
Yep.
And she said, you know the rule, I can't go unless my sister goes. And like this time, and when she said that, she didn't throw such a big fit about it.
No.
Because when he asked her, she was just kind of like, I can't go unless my sister goes. Because I think at that point she was kind of disillusioned with Joey. Yeah. And then that's when Joey was giving Heath Ledger's character the $300.
Yeah. And we see, and Kat says she's not going. Bianca's upset. And we see the reason why Kat doesn't want to go or date is because Joey, how can I say this?
She had dated Joey right after their mom had left. And it just seems like that their mom had left only a few years before this movie took place.
Yep.
And she had ended up sleeping with Joey.
Yep. And
then when she wouldn't do it again, he broke up with her because she knew she wasn't ready. And she's just like, I don't want to see that happen to you.
Yeah, and guys, hear me out on this. If your relationship is based on sex, you need to get out of there because that's not a real relationship. That's just fucking around.
I mean, but some people do like that.
I get it, but you gotta do something else besides it.
Yeah, I mean, if you got like a friends with benefits
that's
relationship, that's a little bit different.
That's different.
Because at least you're friends with the person and you guys probably go out and do stuff, outside of the bedroom.
Yeah, that's different. But I'm talking about like a boyfriend-girlfriend thing, you know what I mean? But besides that, and also if you're going to do friends with benefit, make sure you get tested.
Yeah. So,
or wrap it before you tap it.
They Kat ended up deciding that she was going to go to prom so her sister could go.
Yes.
Because her sister was like, I'm the only sophomore going. Well, she ended up going with Cameron. Cameron was the one that ended up taking her to prom. And then Kat went to prom and met up with Heath Ledger's character.
Yeah, and you know what's fun? Cameron comes pick up Bianca. And the dad's like, still like, what? I'm like, dude, be lucky. This guy's coming to the door and asking to shake your hand. Like, some guys won't do that shit.
Yeah. Yeah. He seemed like, because Cameron, I think, was in it, like, his feelings for Bianca were pure, I think.
Yes.
Whereas Joey's feelings for Bianca were more about, I want to tap that.
Yeah, you can tell. Even he went and introduced himself, but it was like, even her dad's like, she's gone.
Yeah. So Joey had shown up to pick up Bianca, but Bianca had already left, and because she had gone with Cameron. And he came up and he's like, "Yeah, hey, I'm Joey. I'm here to pick up Bianca." And then her dad just shut the door in his face.
Yep.
And then just walked away, and he's just like, "What just happened?"
So, and they pretty much are at the prom.
Yeah. So I think William ended up taking Kat's friend to the prom.
Yeah, because he really did have a thing for her.
Yeah,
so.
And he gave her like this Renaissance-looking dress to wear.
Shakespearean dress.
Yeah. And so that was, kind of cute.
And he dressed up like a Shakespearean character, too.
Yeah.
And everything's happening.
They're all dancing, having fun. And then Joey shows up and he reveals, where Kat could hear, that he had been paying Heath Ledger's character to take out Kat. Kat's like, "You've been paying to take me out?" So she's like, "None of that was real." And she storms off. There was a fight between Cameron and Joey, and then Bianca came up and she basically beat the shit out of Joey too.
Yeah, and what is it?
Heath Ledger tried to when Kat stormed out, Heath Ledger tried to tell Kat that, he loved her for her.
Yeah.
And that his feelings for her were genuine now, but she wouldn't believe him.
Yeah, and what is it? Pretty much Bianca is liking Cameron, but still a little mad, but not mad at him, but also understanding more. And then after a while, everyone's still upset, sad, and Kat's still sad. Heath Ledger's character is still upset, and this I felt was a little rushed because when during the breakup stuff, it takes a little longer.
Yeah. Earlier in the movie, her teacher had they were going over a sonnet, and he's like, "I want you to rewrite this." And she said, like, she really liked the
idea,
but he didn't seem to be believing her. But it was time for them to read their poem out loud, and he was like, "Who wants to read their poem out loud?" And she was the one that got up and did it, and it was basically, "I hate when you do this, I hate when you do this, I hate when you do this."
Yeah.
And one of the lines was, "I hate it when you make me laugh."
Yeah, and pretty much he walks out. They are at the quad. She's going to her car and sees the guitar that she liked. And she asks, like, "How'd you get this?" She's like, "Well, someone paid me to go out with this girl." And pretty much, and she's like, "Well, you can't always buy me a guitar that every time I'm upset." He's like, "No, I'll just have to buy a drum."
Yeah, okay, yeah, and then, like, maybe a tambourine. But before that, like, though, after prom, the day after prom, Bianca went off with Cameron to go sailing. And Kat was, looked like she was doing some sort of artwork. And then her dad was like, "Yeah, hey, I sent the check to Mary Lawrence, so you can go." So, and then, Heath Ledger and Kat's character get together at the end of the movie. And it just kind of makes me wonder, well, what's going to happen, like, when she goes to college? Because she's going to be halfway across, or she's going to be on the other side of the country.
Well, it doesn't matter. Either way, there was a part before it ends. It was, there's not always a girl who's going to flash a teacher to get you out of detention.
Yeah.
But yes, I agree. But, it's the end. Not like they were going to make a second one because Shakespeare never did sequels.
Yeah. And it was actually kind of funny because there was a scene earlier in the movie when Heath Ledger was first initially trying to get with her, and she backed her car up into Joey's car on purpose. And her dad was a little upset about that. So, yeah, she really hated Joey. I don't blame her.
Yes.
I'd hate him too.
I don't blame her. And there was what was it? The dad's like, Doc, because he's going over the insurance, and he's like, my coverage does not cover PMS. I'm like, oh boy.
Yeah. So basically, they share a kiss at the end, and that's the end of 10 Things I Hate About You.
Yeah, it had some moments. I give it an 8 out of 10.
I'd probably give it like a 9.
Yeah, either way.
For the nostalgia factor.
Yes, and you can tell this was going to be the last of the night. I bet you there was more movies before the year 2000, but you could tell this was going to be the last 90 teen rom-coms ever during the 90s, and yeah, and you could tell it wasn't going to be the same afterwards.
Yeah.
And people was like, oh, no. I'm like, no. Rom-com, if you look at rom-coms nowadays, they try to be funny, but they're not.
Yeah. So, yeah, this was actually one of the last few really good. As you can see, Noel's behind me. One of the last few really good movies from the 90s. I mean, there were some moments that didn't age well.
Yeah, like the penis and the PMS joke.
Yeah, but I mean, it was a different time.
And also the dudes who were trying to be, what's it called, who like reggae, and I'm like,
well, I mean, the teacher did call them out on that.
Yeah, at least that's true. At least he called him out. I'm not gonna because when he did call him out, I'm like, thank you. At least someone agrees.
Yeah. So, anyways, that's 10 Things I Hate About You. So next week's hint is I just got your messages. So let's see if you guys can figure that out. But that's it for today. Bye.